Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pestana. And we're here today with special guest, Anne Berube. And she's here to share with us her new book, The Burnout Antidote, a spiritual guide to empowerment for empaths, overgivers, and highly sensitive people. So, Dr. Anne Berube is a spiritual teacher with an uncommon ability to share her story and insights in a way that awakens the inner wisdom in others. She helps people free themselves from the societal and parental conditioning that is holding them back from realizing the highest calling of their soul. So, welcome to the show, Anne Berube.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book. What inspired you to write this?
Well, I've been a spiritual coach for about 12 years now. And 5 years ago, I burnt out doing what I love. And I think, I know I had a limiting belief around when you are on the path and you found what you love to do and this is your soul mission. I had a limiting belief that you don't burn out. And it's not true. You can definitely still burn out. And actually, what happens is a lot of us doing this kind of work are highly sensitive, are overgivers. And often we don't realize that what propels us to serve, what propels us to be there for other people, the reason is not grounded in our core essence. It actually comes from a limiting belief or from, the belief that people need us or that we need to please or that we should do this because it's the right thing to do. But, asking ourselves that question, like, why is it that I am of service? Like, why is it that I do this kind of work? And so, about 5 years ago, I hit a wall. I was, I had been practicing. I had like a very full schedule of clients, and I was getting results. People loved it. I was really good at it, but I was starting to feel depleted, exhausted, drained. I'd get sick more often, and I'm sure some of your listeners could relate, even resentful at some point, because when you overextend, you don't realize that you're actually, giving from a place of an empty cup, and just like kind of operating on fumes, and this resentment starts to set in. So I remember the moment where I was writing an email, and I was in my office, and I was kind of huffing and puffing, typing. And my husband comes over and he's like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" I said, "Oh, I think I need to refer this client to someone who still likes people." And I just, it kind of surprised me to hear that. And I thought, wow, I need to take my own advice. I need to stop. I need to take some time. I need to make space to see what is going on. Why is it that doing what I love, I'm feeling like this? And that's when, with some self-exploration and taking some time off, realized that the propeller, like what was guiding my service, was the need to be needed. And I talk about that quite a bit in the book, where when you are a highly sensitive person, an empath, someone who's kind of always been tuned into other people, and you're born in a family that needed you or didn't have the capacity to understand your sensitivity, in the way that it needed to be understood, we develop this pattern of overgiving, and so being needed is not enough of a driver to make you feel fulfilled and to make you feel energized and happy with what you do. And so I started asking myself this question in my meditation every morning for a few months: who is Anne when she's not needed? who was I before I was needed? And I couldn't remember. The first answer, the first meditation, there was nothing. There was almost like a sadness, just a weight in my chest, because for as long as I could remember, I had been needed by my mother. She, she needed me. And when she needed me and I could help her, I knew who I was. My identity was very tied into that. And so this is a process that I guide the reader through, is getting to that place of really meeting that little girl, that little boy, that self, that, who we were before the world started to take from us, or before the world needed us, or before the world told us who we should be.
It can seem like a hamster wheel. It sounds like, this need, we develop it as children and then we go out in the world searching for it, but it never really gets us anywhere.
No. And I think it gets us somewhere for a while. And I think we all hit a wall at some point, whether it's a loss or it's an illness or burnout. But I think we all come to this place where we have to look at the limiting beliefs that are guiding our day-to-day. Is this something I chose? Am I operating from a place of values that I decided on? Or is this more automatic pilot, out of habit, because I've always known myself to be this way?
So is there a spiritual solution to burnout?
I only see spiritual solutions. And so for me, burnout is a spiritual, it's a crisis in meaning, deep spiritual meaning. And so when we do this process of meeting the inner child, we are accessing who we really are, and we're accessing the gifts and the medicine of our soul. And so when we tap into that power and tap into that energy, suddenly what we do it because it's who we are, not because other people are expecting things or we think that they need us. It's actually coming from that place of spirit and of soul and of higher calling and of dharma, that unique signature that you are. And what I love about a spiritual solution is that it not only affects your, the area of your life that you're focused on when you do the process or when you do the healing, it actually affects all aspects of your life. So you find a solution to a problem. If you find a spiritual solution to a problem, you actually will expand and heal and transform all the other areas of your life. So I always love to go to the root of things, and in the work that I do, that's the body.
So in your book, you talk about how empathy and service is a part of the burnout. So how does that all come together?
Yeah, I in the book, I talk about redefining empathy, for example, because especially people who are highly sensitive and people who are overgivers, what we put empathy on a pedestal, and what we realize is that it can be quite toxic. And so psychologists, they make the difference between cognitive empathy and emotional empathy. So emotional empathy there would be like a lot of contagion of emotion. So let's say you're having a problem and I'm listening to you. I am not in my body. I'm actually out of myself. My attention is kind of up and out, and I am in your problems, and I'm feeling what you're feeling, and I'm completely disconnected from my power. And when I do that, my focus and my perspective becomes very narrow, and I only see what's going on here, and I don't have access to the wisdom or the intelligence that the situation presents. Cognitive empathy is very different. So my attention is in my body. I'm breathing deeply. I am here now in myself, even if you're talking to me. So as you're sharing your emotional problems, I am in my body, feeling my power, connected to my source. And I understand what you're going through, but there's no emotional contagion at all. And when I do that, and I call this embodied empathy, when I do that, I can actually hold in reverence your light. I can see you for the more that you can be instead of only seeing the problem. And that's where I have access to wisdom, and I have access to what it is that is wanting to come forth beyond the problem that your soul might be presenting. So I redefine empathy. I think it's really important to, especially for overgivers. We think it's the right thing to do, to feel it all and to be there fully, and feeling other people's feelings, but it really isn't. It's actually depleting us, and it definitely leads to burnout. And then I redefine service as well, which I know myself growing up in the Catholic Church, and I definitely service was more like had a martyr kind of feeling to it. Like the more you give of yourself, no matter what happens to you, the better spiritually you are. And that's not true, because when we do that, when we give from an empty cup, when we deplete ourselves, and for the sake of service, we actually cheat the world of our gifts, because we can't honor our gifts and our medicine when we are depleting ourselves. And so the why you serve, asking ourselves why we serve, is really, really important. Is it because it's the right thing to do? Is it because it's what you've always done? Is it because you're good at it? All those reasons are not good enough. It has to be because it's who you are, and it's fulfilling you, it's filling you up, it's empowering you, and it's making you, and it brings results as well.
Do you find that people end up in positions of service because they feel that that's something they should be doing, as opposed to something that really brings out the passion in them?
I think, yes, like some beautiful, like people with, who came here with old souls and very highly sensitive. They are here for service. They know they're here to help alleviate the suffering and the pain of their fellow humans. And there's often a pressure that they put on themselves, but I think also it can come from other organizations as well, like or organized religion or groups, or that it's important to give everything you've got, to be of service, to be a good spiritual person. And so it is the right thing to do, to be of service. We are here to be there for each other. There's no doubt about that. But it should never be to the detriment of our emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Because the more that we love, like radical soul love, the more that we love our self and our inner world. Like, I'm not talking about self-love like as vanity or ego. I'm talking about this inner world, like our soul. The more powerful we are as supporters, helpers, guides, creatives.
So what is our core essence?
Our core essence is our soul. So it is the unique signature that you came to Earth with. And so it's the essence of who you are, and it's what was there before you were born, and it's what will stay after you pass away. And so when we are born, our core essence is readily available. We don't have those protective mechanisms yet. And so our expression of soul and self are pure, and the light just kind of, moves uninterrupted through the body. And as we go through the different conditioning and restrictive experiences and the traumas of childhood, we start to put boundaries and limits around our core essence, and we manage and control how we express it. And then we become adults, and we are a version of our core essence, but we're not the full expression of our core essence. And so the idea is to peel back the layers of that conditioning so that we can remember who we really are and reveal it and manifest it and express it into the world. And the body is the instrument that the soul chose for this human adventure. And when limiting beliefs and traumas were integrated in the body, they were integrated into the nervous system, into the fascia, into the organs, into the bones, into the muscles first. And then they become a thought pattern, and then they become a belief. And so through the process of peeling the layers back, we go into the body so that it goes quickly. We can talk therapy for years and years about a story, about a trauma, about something that happened to us. And that would bring incremental changes. But when we access the root of what happened, how it was wired in the nervous system the first time it happened, and we breathe into that space, and we allow the movement that was not allowed to happen because of the environment that we grew up in, it can happen in a minute. We could let go of so much baggage in just a minute with breath and attention and deep love for ourselves.
In your book, you talk about strengthening our resolve. What do you mean by that, and how can we do it?
So in the book, Strengthening Our Resolve is chapter 3, which is the second step. I put that in there because I find that most of us have great intentions. Most of us want to change, want to heal, and want to do the work that it takes to get there. But then once we decide, we start to doubt ourselves. We know exactly what we want. We know what we need. But as soon as we decide, we start to come up with a list of objections. Okay, so the first step in the book is stop. You're more tired than you think. Just make space, create space for yourself. Take some time, maybe to do a little practice every day, or go on a writing retreat or a meditation retreat. Just take some time. And so most people can decide, yeah, I need that. But then it's a little later on when it's time to actually go through with it. The objections that our ego sends are, well, you should put your money on something else. You can't go on a retreat. Or you are taking care of your elderly mother. You can't take 2 minutes or 5 minutes for a daily practice. Or, I'm not good enough to be doing this kind of work. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow because I don't have enough time. So there's a list of objections in the book that are typical. And that's just the ego. It's the conditioned mind that is used to protecting you accessing these emotions of hurt that, have been creating all these layers of conditioning to keep you away from your core essence. And so I thought it was really important to put that chapter in, strengthen your resolve, because that's really the first obstacle that we face. It will stop a lot of people dead in their tracks. It will, we'll just push it to next year or another time. And so the way to strengthen your resolve is to actually look at the list of objections that your ego comes up with. Actually write it down, say it out loud, and know that none of them are valid. And I talk about this in chapter 3, like just none of them are true. They're all coming from this place of fear and protection and wanting to keep you vigilant, for no good reason, just to keep you safe from a threat that is not there, but that the nervous system and the ego believe is still there.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because I had so many questions on this chapter. It's like, how do we identify that we're having these erroneous thoughts?
Yeah. Well, self-awareness is key here. So just being aware, like often we, let's say you do take time and you go on a spiritual retreat and you had a great time, and then you come home and you tell your husband or your wife, like, this was amazing, like it meant this and this. And then your partner doesn't react the way that you wanted them to react. How quickly do we start dismissing what we knew to be true and what was so meaningful for us? And we start to doubt ourselves. And so our partner, their reaction is a metaphor for what happens in our own minds when we know we want something, when we believe this is what's best for us, and we start to doubt ourselves when we hear those objections, and that enthusiasm and that feeling of connection and alignment and excitement start to go away. And then we don't go through with it. And so I like to just, pay attention to my inner dialogue. How is it that I'm talking to myself? Like, is this actually helpful? Am I encouraging? Am I like the mother and the father I always wanted when I talk to myself? Or am I actually my parents and I'm actually quite hard on myself? So paying attention to your inner dialogue, especially when you're getting stressed and overwhelmed, and then writing it down or saying it out loud to someone else, like to be witness, is really, really helpful. Is a good way to start to notice, these are patterns that are not helpful. They don't belong to me. And it really just bringing them to awareness, like writing them down or speaking them, is 75% of the work, because they start to dissolve in the light. It's usually all wrapped up in shame or wrapped up in duty or, I should. And when that comes out of your own inner dialogue and it comes out on paper or it comes out of your throat with sound, you're bringing that out of the darkness into the light, and it starts to dissolve.
Okay, so that was a big one. I think it's such learned behavior because, my goodness, when we do have this thought process that goes through our minds, not all of us, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that struggle with this, that we have this voice. It's all the things our parents told us as we were growing up. You'll never be good enough. You're not, even the things they did tell us. So it's like, how do we work through this learned behavior?
Mm-hmm. So I use the body as the instrument for this processing. And, what we know from epigenetics now, which is the new biology, is that our body is a biological processor of energy and information. And so before it's a thought, it's actually a sensation in the body. And so when you're talking to someone and you're starting to feel this agitation or annoyed or angry or sad, or you're starting to feel like your body's collapsing or you're tightening, in that moment, like if we can catch ourselves and let go of our thoughts about what's happening and just breathe into the sensation of tightness, breathe into the sensation of annoyance. So, right now, as I'm talking about that, I can kind of imagine a situation and I could feel it. I can feel it in my chest, right? I can feel my chest kind of tightening. And so I want to take a pause and I want to breathe deeply into that space, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Talk a lot about the breath in the book because it's the number one tool for this journey, for this process. You can't change these patterns and you can't get clarity and heal them if you're in vigilance. So most of us are breathing very shallowly. And so exaggerating the breath, even for three deep breaths like this, will just bring your body into parasympathetic. And then from that place, you can really sense the sensation. Where does that actually live in my body? I know the thoughts that are connected to it, but where are the roots? And I just breathe into that space and I talk to it. And I talk about this in chapter 6, like talking to your inner child, like it was a beautiful little child in front of you. Like, how would you talk to a 1-year-old? Hi, beautiful. I see you. I love you. I'm so sorry you're feeling like this today, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. So this is radical soul love. It's saying, what's in my body, what I'm carrying, in order for it to move and change and transform, I have to first deeply love it. And as we breathe deeply into that sensation, it starts to change a little bit. Maybe it moves up or down. And so it's a whole process, but it's the gateway. The body's the gateway to the soul. We can't do this work intellectually. We will just have little incremental changes or no change at all. We'll just be repeating the same patterns, but in a different context.
And where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So my website is anneberube.com, which is ANNEBERUBE.com. And you'll find all kinds of free resources there, meditations that are also in the book. There's about 21 exercise and meditations in the book, and they're all recorded on my website. And on my website, you can also see the next workshops where I'll be teaching. And I have a blog and I'm on social media as well.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Well, thank you, Anne. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Burnout Antidote, a spiritual guide to empowerment for empaths, overgivers, and highly sensitive people. The Burnout Antidote's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember to support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf there, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're going to pause here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back after this message. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.